As the clock struck midnight, I hit send on the text that would change everything. I froze our joint accounts, $250,000 locked away, every last penny gone from his grasp. He was in the delivery room with his mistress, welcoming the child that should have been ours, while I sat alone in our empty home, rage coursing through my veins. When his phone buzzed with the news, I imagined the shock on his face, the betrayal sinking in like a dagger. He thought he could leave me behind, but now he was stranded in a sea of his own making. My name is Madison. This is my revenge. As the hours dragged on, I felt a mixture of anger and disbelief wash over me, each wave intensifying the pit in my stomach. The quiet of the house was a stark contrast to the chaos of my emotions. I glanced at the clock, its hands moving painfully slow, mocking my torment as I fought to regain my composure. Memories of Jacob flooded my mind. The laughter we shared and the dreams we built together, now tainted by his betrayal. I had given him everything, my heart, my loyalty, and my trust. How could he throw it all away for a fleeting moment of passion? Lily was at school, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in our lives. I had wanted so much to shield her from this, to keep the remnants of our family intact, but the weight of the truth pressed down on me like an anchor. I could already envision the questions she would ask, the hurt in her eyes when she discovered her father's duplicity. It made my heart ache, but I knew I had to be strong for her. As I paced the living room, each step felt heavy with the realization that our world was about to change irrevocably. I picked up my phone, staring at the screen as if it held the answers to all my questions. I wanted to call Evelyn, to unload my heartbreak onto her, but I hesitated. Would she really understand the depth of my pain? I was scared to admit that I felt so utterly lost, so betrayed by the person I had vowed to spend my life with. Finally, I pressed the call button, feeling a spark of hope as her cheerful voice greeted me on the other end. "Madison, it's so good to hear from you." Evelyn's warmth was a balm to my frayed nerves. "Can you come over? I really need to talk," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "Of course, I'll be there in 10 minutes," she assured me, sensing the urgency in my tone. I hung up and took a deep breath, hoping that just talking to her would help me find some clarity. When Evelyn arrived, her presence filled the room like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. She rushed to embrace me, her concern evident. "What's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." I opened my mouth to speak, but found that the words were stuck in my throat. Instead, I led her to the kitchen, pouring us both a cup of tea, my hands trembling slightly as I set the mugs down. I finally let the truth spill out in a torrent of emotion, sharing the painful reality of Jacob's betrayal and the child he had with another woman. As I spoke, I could see Evelyn's expression shift from shock to determination. "I can't believe he would do this to you, Madison. You deserve so much better," she said, her voice fierce, as if she were ready to confront Jacob herself. "I never thought he would betray me like this, especially with everything we've built together. And now I don't know how to protect Lily from this mess." I felt the tears prick my eyes, but I willed myself to stay strong. Evelyn took my hands in hers, steady and reassuring. "You're going to get through this. You're stronger than you think. Have you thought about what you want to do next?" I hadn't. All I knew was that I couldn't let Jacob waltz back into our lives as if nothing had changed. I froze our joint finances. He's going to have to face the consequences of his actions. I want him to feel what I feel. To know that he can't just walk away from the life we built together. Evelyn nodded, her eyes full of understanding. "That's a bold move, but it might be exactly what he needs. He's been living in a fantasy world, thinking he can have it all without consequences." Just then, my phone buzzed again, and I glanced at the screen to see a message from Jacob. My heart raced as I read his words. "Madison, we need to talk. Please come home. I'm sorry." Sorry? The word felt hollow after everything he had done. a pitiful attempt to undo the damage he had caused. I felt a surge of anger as I typed back, my fingers flying across the screen. "What do you want, Jacob? You've made your choices." Evelyn watched, her expression a mix of sympathy and admiration. "You're taking control, and that's the first step. Don't let him manipulate you into feeling guilty." I hit send and set my phone down, the weight of my decision settling in. The silence in the room felt heavier, but there was also a sense of resolve growing within me. I wasn't just a victim of Jacob's betrayal. I was a mother and a woman who had the power to reclaim my life. The thought filled me with a flicker of hope, a glimmer of the strength I knew I possessed. As the afternoon sun streamed through the window, I began to envision a future beyond this heartbreak. I would focus on Lily, on rebuilding our lives and creating a safe space for us both. Evelyn reached for my hand again, a silent pledge of support. "Whatever you need, I'm here for you, Madison. You won't face this alone." Her words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, and for the first time since the betrayal, I felt a hint of peace. I didn't have to navigate this dark path in isolation. With Evelyn by my side, I felt a flicker of strength, a promise that I could rise above this betrayal and forge a new beginning for myself and my daughter. The road ahead would be difficult, but I was determined to walk it one step at a time. The next morning, I awoke to the soft light streaming through the curtains, illuminating the room with a warm glow that felt at odds with the turmoil inside me. I sat up slowly, the weight of the previous day still heavy on my chest. Jacob's betrayal had shaken my foundation, leaving me unsteady, but Evelyn's presence was a reassuring reminder that I didn't have to face this alone. As I prepared breakfast, the smell of coffee brewed in the kitchen mingled with the faint echoes of laughter from Lily, who was already up and getting ready for school. I found solace in those moments. The normalcy of everyday life felt like an anchor in the storm. Lily bounded into the kitchen, her hair a wild halo of curls. She smiled at me, her bright eyes reflecting an innocence I desperately wanted to protect. "Mom, can I take a couple of friends to the mall after school? They're planning on getting some new clothes," she asked, her voice laced with enthusiasm. I hesitated. Considering the state of our finances and how we would adjust to this new reality, I wanted her to have her normal life, but I also needed to be careful. "Sure, honey. Just make sure you're home by dinner," I replied, putting on a brave face despite the knot in my stomach. As she grabbed a piece of toast and rushed out the door, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt. I was still processing the emotional wreckage Jacob had caused, and here was Lily, blissfully unaware. The burden of my heartbreak weighed heavily on me, but the thought of my daughter's happiness pushed me forward. I resolved to keep my struggles hidden for her sake, hoping to shield her from the chaos that threatened to spill into our lives. Once Lily was gone, I turned my focus to the day ahead. I called Evelyn and we arranged to meet at our favorite cafe. Over steaming cups of coffee and buttery croissants, I poured my heart out, unraveling the threads of confusion and pain. Evelyn listened intently. Her eyes filled with empathy, and I could see the gears in her mind turning as she tried to piece together a way to help me navigate this nightmare. "You have to think about what you want, Madison. You deserve happiness, even if it feels impossible right now," she urged, her voice steady and calming. "And don't forget, you have options. You can control your own path." Her words resonated deeply, igniting a spark within me that I hadn't felt in a long time. I knew I needed to take charge of my life, to reclaim my identity beyond being Jacob's wife or Lily's mother. I started drafting a plan, jotting down ideas on the back of a napkin. I would seek legal advice to ensure my rights were protected regarding the finances and custody arrangements. There was power in knowledge, and I needed to arm myself with it. The thought of facing Jacob in a courtroom made my stomach turn, but I understood that I had to prepare for every possibility. As our conversation shifted to lighter topics, I felt a sense of camaraderie with Evelyn that reminded me of the strength of our friendship We laughed over shared memories and dreamed about the future, allowing ourselves a brief escape from the harsh reality I was grappling with. I realized that I could allow myself moments of joy, even amidst the heartache, and that my journey wouldn't be solely defined by Jacob's choices. After our meeting, I returned home and took a deep breath, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. I opened my laptop and began researching lawyers who specialized in family law. Each click of the keyboard felt like a step away from Jacob's betrayal and a step towards reclaiming my narrative. I found a few promising candidates and made notes to contact them the following day. The act of taking control felt empowering, and I was ready to embrace the challenges ahead. Later that evening, Lily returned home, her cheeks flushed with excitement from her day out with friends. She regaled me with tales of their adventures, her laughter filling the room and momentarily masking the heaviness I carried inside. I listened intently, grateful for her ability to find joy even in uncertain times. It reminded me that no matter what Jacob had done, the bond between us would always remain unbreakable. I would ensure that our family would not be defined by his mistakes. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about my future. I knew it would take time to heal, to rebuild what had been lost, but I was no longer willing to let Jacob dictate my happiness. My heart felt lighter with that realization. I would protect Lily, nurture her dreams, and create a life filled with love and security, irrespective of what Jacob had chosen. My journey wouldn't be easy, but I had hope, and hope was enough to keep moving forward. As days turned into weeks, I found a rhythm in this new life. I began attending support groups, connecting with other women who shared similar experiences. Their stories resonated with me, and I learned that vulnerability could be a source of strength. I spoke openly about my feelings, the grief of betrayal, and the determination to rise above it. Each meeting left me more empowered, and I felt less alone in the battle I was waging. Through it all, Evelyn remained my anchor. She checked in regularly, offering encouragement and a listening ear whenever I needed it. Together, we made plans for a weekend getaway, just the two of us, to recharge and reconnect. It felt good to look ahead, to have moments to anticipate, and I knew I was finding my way back to the person I once was. The journey was far from over, but I had taken the first steps towards reclaiming my life. And for the first time in a long while, I felt ready to embrace whatever came next. With each passing day, I learned that healing was not linear, but a winding road filled with ups and downs. It became clearer that love is multifaceted, and while I had experienced betrayal, I also discovered a profound resilience within myself. I was ready to fight for my family and our future, and nothing would stand in my way. If you want to follow my journey as I navigate through heartbreak, healing, and finding my way back to joy, please subscribe and join me on this transformative path. Your support means the world to me as I continue to share my story. In the days that followed Jacob's betrayal, I felt as if I was in a fog, moving through life but not fully present. Each morning was a reminder of what I had lost, and each night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I felt the weight of sorrow pressing down on me like a heavy blanket. Lily had noticed my mood shifts. She would come into my room at night, her eyes wide with concern, and I could see the confusion etched on her face. I didn't want to burden her with my pain, but I also knew I couldn't hide it forever. One evening, she sat beside me on the bed, her small frame curled up in a way that reminded me of when she was younger, before the world became so complicated. "Mom, are you okay?" she asked softly, her voice trembling slightly. I wanted to tell her everything, to express the hurt and betrayal I felt, but I also didn't want to scare her. Instead, I took a deep breath, forcing a smile that I hoped appeared genuine. "I'm just tired, sweetheart. A lot on my mind." That evening, I had a conversation with Evelyn that would change the course of my healing. We met at our favorite cafe, the same one where Jacob and I had shared countless mornings over coffee and pastries. As I walked through the door, the familiar scents hit me, but they felt foreign now, twisted by the shadows of my reality. Evelyn was already seated at a corner table, her warm smile a beacon amidst my storm. I slid into the seat across from her, and for a moment, I let the chatter of other patrons fade away. "You look like you need a friend," she said, and her tone was both teasing and sincere. I chuckled softly, then the laughter faded as the weight of my heart settled back in. "I can't believe he would do this to us, Evelyn. To Lily," I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. "I thought we were a team, that we were building a future together, but he chose her." Evelyn reached across the table, squeezing my hand gently. "You are so much stronger than you realize, Madison. Jacob may have made a choice, but you get to choose how you respond." Her words struck a chord within me. It was easy to drown in despair, but what if I fought back instead? What if I took control of the narrative instead of letting Jacob dictate my feelings? As I returned home, I started to think practically about my situation. Freezing our finances had been a drastic move, but it was necessary. Jacob had to face the reality of his actions, and I wouldn't allow him to simply walk away unscathed. I began to organize my thoughts, jotting down a list of everything I needed to do to protect Lily and myself. I needed to consult a lawyer, explore my options, and ultimately prepare for what might come next. The thought of confronting Jacob directly filled me with dread, but I knew it was a conversation I could no longer avoid. When I finally mustered the courage to face him, I had rehearsed every word in my mind. I wanted to convey my pain, but also my resolve. Jacob walked into the living room as if nothing had changed, that life could continue as usual despite the chaos he had unleashed. "Hey," he said, his voice casual, as if we were just discussing the weather. I felt my heart race, a mixture of anger and heartbreak swirling inside me. "We need to talk," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. He looked at me, his expression shifting from surprise to annoyance, but I didn't waver. "About what? Did you freeze the bank accounts? Is that what this is about?" he scoffed, crossing his arms defensively. I took a deep breath, fighting back the tears threatening to spill. "Yes, Jacob, that's exactly what this is about. You made a choice, and now you need to understand the consequences. I won't just sit back while you take from me and our daughter." His face darkened, and I could see his frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "This isn't fair, Madison. I'm trying to be a father." "A father?" I repeated incredulously. "You think being a father means abandoning your family for another one? I'm not standing in your way. I just want you to face the reality of what you've done." The silence that followed was palpable, filled with unspoken words and emotions neither of us wanted to acknowledge. Finally, Jacob broke the silence. "So, what now? You're going to cut me off completely?" I shook my head. "No, I'm not trying to punish you. I want you to be a part of Lily's life, but I need to protect her from the hurt you've caused. Right now, I'm not sure how we can move forward. But we need to figure it out together." His expression softened just for a moment before the walls returned. "This isn't how I wanted things to go," he muttered, glancing away. My heart cracked a little further. Neither did I, but we have to be honest about what we want and what we're willing to fight for. As the conversation progressed, I felt a mix of hope and despair. I saw flickers of the man I once loved, but they were overshadowed by the reality of his choices. I realized then that healing wouldn't come easy. It would be a slow process filled with ups and downs. But I was willing to take that journey, even if it meant carving a new path for myself and Lily. In the days that followed, I reached out to a lawyer who specialized in family law. She was understanding and compassionate, guiding me through the steps I needed to take. With each meeting, I felt a sense of empowerment, a growing understanding that I could reclaim my life. As I immersed myself in this new reality, I began to rebuild my identity. I started rediscovering parts of myself that I had set aside while trying to be the perfect wife and mother. One evening, while going through some old photos, I stumbled upon a picture of Lily at a school event, her face lit up with joy. That image reminded me why I had to keep pushing forward. I was fighting not just for myself, but for her as well. I wanted to set an example of strength and resilience to show her that we could rise from the ashes of betrayal. As I continued to work through my feelings, I also kept the lines of communication open with Lily. I encouraged her to share her thoughts and emotions, assuring her that it was okay to feel hurt or confused. Together, we began navigating the complexities of our new reality, and slowly, I could see the bond between us strengthening. In the midst of heartbreak, I was beginning to find a new sense of purpose. The journey ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, but I was prepared to face it. I was no longer just a victim of Jacob's choices. I was a woman determined to reclaim her narrative and build a future filled with hope and possibility. As I stepped out of the house, the crisp morning air hit my face, a stark contrast to the chaotic whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. I took a deep breath, grounding myself in the moment. Each step away from the familiar walls of our home felt heavy yet liberating. I was determined to reclaim my own narrative, to stop allowing Jacob's betrayal to define me. I knew I had to focus on Lily, to protect her from the fallout of her father's actions, while also showing her that strength comes from within. Evelyn had already suggested we spend more time together, and I welcomed the idea. She had a knack for lifting my spirits, and I needed that now more than ever. I sent her a quick message to meet at our favorite cafe, the one adorned with vibrant flowers and warm pastries that seemed to promise comfort in every bite. As I waited for her, I watched people stroll by, their laughter mingling with the sounds of clinking cups and the low hum of conversations. Each laugh felt like a reminder of the joy I once had with Jacob, now tarnished by betrayal. When Evelyn arrived, her radiant smile instantly eased some of my tension. She pulled me into a warm embrace, and I felt a spark of normalcy in the midst of the storm. "You look better," she said, her eyes searching mine. I appreciated her effort to reassure me, but I knew the journey of healing was only just beginning. "I'm trying," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. We settled into a cozy corner of the cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee wrapping around us like a comforting blanket. I knew I had to open up, to share my feelings, especially now that I was on this path of rediscovery. "I've been thinking about Lily," I admitted, tracing the rim of my coffee cup with my fingers. "I don't want her to feel like she has to choose sides. She's hurting too, and I don't want to make it worse." Evelyn nodded, her expression turning serious. "It's important to keep communication open with her. She needs to know you're there for her, no matter what. And she also needs to know that it's okay to feel upset or confused." Her words resonated deeply within me, and I realized how important it was to cultivate a safe space for Lily. "I feel like I'm walking on a tightrope," I confessed. "One wrong step and everything could fall apart." Evelyn reached across the table, squeezing my hand gently. "You're stronger than you think, Madison. You've been through so much already, and you haven't crumbled. Just take it one day at a time." That afternoon, we talked and laughed about trivial things, the kind of conversations that acted as a balm for my heart. I began to feel lighter as I poured my feelings out, and for a moment, the weight of my situation faded into the background. But as I returned home, the heaviness crept back in, reminding me that I had to confront Jacob sooner or later. The evening felt tense, as if the walls were closing in. Lily had returned from school, and her silence echoed throughout the house. I wanted to engage with her, to bridge the gap that had formed, but I felt like a stranger in my own home. It was painful to see her walk around with that guarded look on her face. She was trying to be strong, but I could see the cracks, the confusion. "Can we talk?" I finally asked, my voice breaking the silence that had wrapped itself around us. She looked up, her eyes filled with a mix of apprehension and longing. "About what?" she replied, her tone guarded yet curious. "About your father," I said, my heart racing. I wanted to tread lightly, to give her the space to express what she was feeling. "I don't want to," she muttered, looking away. I could feel the walls between us growing taller, and it was suffocating. "I understand," I said softly, But I want you to know that whatever you're feeling is valid. I'm here for you, and we can get through this together." Her gaze flickered back to me, and for a moment, I saw the vulnerability beneath her tough exterior. "It hurts, Mom. I don't know why he did this. I thought we were a family." I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat threatening to choke me. "We still are a family, Lily, just in a different way now. I know it's hard to understand, but we will find our way through this." Tears glistened in her eyes, and I felt a surge of compassion for the girl who was navigating the storm of her father's choices. "I don't want to pick sides," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You don't have to," I reassured her, moving closer and wrapping my arms around her. "Your father's decisions are his, and I want you to know that you're loved, regardless of what happens. We can lean on each other." In that embrace, I felt a shift within both of us. The acknowledgement of our shared pain, the promise of support, began to bridge the distance Jacob had inadvertently created. It wouldn't be easy, but I knew that together, Lily and I could navigate this new reality. As the days passed, I focused on rebuilding the bonds with my daughter, creating moments where we could share laughter and tears. I reached out to Evelyn more often, confiding in her about my fears and hopes for the future. With each passing moment, I found resilience blooming within me, a quiet strength that had been overshadowed for too long. I was learning to redefine what family meant, and it was becoming a beautiful journey of rediscovery. As the days turned into weeks, I began to understand that healing wasn't a straight path. It twisted and turned, often leading me to unexpected places. I spent hours reflecting on my relationship with Jacob, realizing how deeply I had invested in a future that now seemed to unravel before my eyes. Despite his betrayal, I had poured my heart into our family, and the thought of that love being reduced to a painful memory was excruciating. Yet, amidst the chaos, I found solace in my budding relationship with Lily. She was navigating her own storm, trying to comprehend her father's choices while seeking reassurance from me. I made it a point to reassure her daily that our love was unbreakable, that our bond was real, despite the shattering of the family unit she once knew. One afternoon, we sat together on the porch, sipping lemonade under the setting sun, and she shared her frustration about the situation. I listened intently, realizing how important it was for her to express her feelings. It was clear that she was struggling with the conflict of loyalty between her father and me. I felt a surge of protectiveness over her heart and knew I had to help her navigate this confusing terrain without pushing her away. Later that week, Evelyn invited me to a small cafe downtown, a cozy place I used to love. It felt strange to return, as if I were stepping into a life I no longer recognized. We settled into a corner booth, and I could see the concern etched across her face. "You need to focus on yourself, Madison," she said gently, stirring her coffee. I opened my mouth to respond, but the words caught in my throat. I hadn't fully grasped how much I had neglected my own needs while trying to hold everything together. "It's just so hard," I finally admitted, allowing the vulnerability to seep through the cracks I had tried so hard to hide. Evelyn nodded, her eyes softening. "You're doing the best you can. Just remember to take care of your heart." Her words struck a chord within me, igniting a flicker of determination. That evening, after I returned home, I sat in silence, contemplating what it meant to truly take care of myself. I was a mother, yes, but I was also a woman with dreams and desires that had been sidelined for far too long. I rummaged through my old journals, preserved the original language filled with aspirations I had once held close. I stumbled upon a dream I had buried deep, the desire to start my own business. The thought made my heart race, a blend of excitement and fear flooding my senses. I had always wanted to create something of my own, but I had let the daily grind and the comforts of a stable life dampen that spark. Maybe this was the moment to reignite it. I spent the following days sketching out plans and ideas, poring over resources and imagining what it would be like to step out as an entrepreneur. Each new thought felt like a step toward reclaiming my identity. It wasn't just about escaping the pain Jacob had caused. It was about building a future for Lily and me, one where we could thrive rather than merely survive. I shared my burgeoning plan with Evelyn during our next coffee date, and her eyes lit up with excitement. "You have to do this, Madison. You're more than capable, and I'll help however I can." Her unwavering support filled me with confidence, and I realized I was not alone in this journey. Despite the chaos at home, I began to carve out time in my schedule to work on my business. I set up a small workspace in the corner of our living room filled with notebooks, sketches, and a vision board that represented my dreams. Every evening after dinner, I would retreat into that space, immersing myself in the possibilities. At first, there were moments of doubt. The whispers of insecurity nagged at my thoughts. Was I truly capable of this? Could I build something meaningful from the ashes of my shattered world? But every time I felt that familiar wave of uncertainty, I thought of Lily, her bright smile and unwavering faith in me. I pushed forward, determined to create something that would not only support us, but also empower us both. One afternoon, I received a message from Jacob asking to meet. The thought of facing him again sent my heart racing, a mixture of dread and courage battling within me. I agreed, wanting to understand where he was coming from and hoping to find closure. When we met at a small park, the atmosphere felt heavy with unspoken words. Jacob looked different. The strain of his choices had taken a toll on him. He opened the conversation hesitantly, and I could sense the regret weaving through his words. But I realized I had stepped into this meeting as a woman reborn. I was no longer the woman who defined herself through his lens. I was reclaiming my narrative. I listened, but I also set boundaries, expressing how his actions had impacted me and Lily. While he tried to convey his thoughts on parenting and responsibility, I could see that he still didn't quite grasp the depth of the hurt he had caused. It was in that moment I knew I had to let go of the hope that he might change overnight. I didn't need his approval or his validation to move forward. I was building a life that would be my own, with or without him. As I left the park, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The conversation hadn't been easy, but it had been necessary. I returned home with a renewed sense of purpose, ready to embrace the future with open arms. I would continue to work on my business, lean into my relationship with Lily, and strengthen the bond with Evelyn. This journey was far from over, but I was no longer afraid of the unknown. Instead, I was eager to see where it would take me, ready to share my story and listen to others who found themselves in the tangled web of heartache and renewal. If you have a story of resilience or transformation, please share it with me. I'd love to hear how you've navigated your own journey, finding strength in unexpected places. As the days turned into weeks, I felt a strange sense of clarity wash over me, like the fog that had clouded my mind was finally lifting. My heart was still heavy with betrayal, but I knew I had to focus on rebuilding my life for Lily's sake. She needed a mother who could guide her through this emotional storm, not someone who was lost in her own grief. One evening, as I was sorting through a box of old family photos, I stumbled upon a picture of Jacob and me at the beach, our arms wrapped around each other, sun-drenched smiles reflecting the carefree days we once shared. The image was a stark reminder of how quickly things could change. The warmth of that moment felt like a lifetime ago. Lily wandered into the room, her expression a mix of curiosity and concern. She had been quieter than usual, lost in her own world as she processed the fallout of her father's actions. I gestured for her to join me on the floor, surrounded by memories both good and bad. "Do you remember this day?" I asked, holding up the photograph. She peered at it, a flicker of nostalgia passing across her face. "Yeah, we had so much fun," she replied softly, her voice tinged with longing. In that moment, I realized that I needed to create new memories for us, moments that would help us heal. How about we plan a little adventure together, I suggested, trying to inject some enthusiasm into my tone. Her eyes lit up for a second, a hint of the vibrant girl I knew still hidden beneath her quiet demeanor. Like what? She asked, her curiosity piqued. I thought for a moment before suggesting a weekend trip to the mountains. The idea of hiking trails, sharing stories around a campfire, and simply escaping the heaviness of our situation felt invigorating. When I mentioned it to Evelyn, she was immediately on board. "Let's make it a girls' weekend, just us, away from all the noise," she said, her excitement infectious. I loved how effortlessly she brought lightness into my life, pushing me to step outside my comfort zone. We spent the next few days planning every detail, from packing our favorite snacks to choosing a cozy cabin that overlooked a serene lake. I felt a spark of hope ignite within me, a reminder that life still held beautiful moments, even in the darkest times. The day finally arrived, and as we loaded the car, I could see Lily's enthusiasm bubbling over. "I can't wait to hike. I want to find the best view," she exclaimed. Her spirit was gradually returning, and it warmed my heart to witness her excitement. The drive was filled with music, laughter, and snippets of conversations that I had thought would forever be silenced by Jacob's betrayal. For the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of freedom, the burdens of my past beginning to loosen their grip. Upon arrival, the scent of pine and the cool mountain air enveloped us, washing away the remnants of city life. As we settled into the cabin, I noticed how Lily's demeanor began to shift. She was more animated, her laughter ringing through the walls as she and Evelyn engaged in the playful debate about the best hiking trails. Watching them together was a balm to my wounded heart, a reminder that connection and love could be found in unexpected places. The next morning, we embarked on our first hike. The trail was steep but surrounded by breathtaking views, and as we climbed, I felt the weight of my worries begin to dissipate. With each step, I found solace in the beauty of nature, a reminder of the world outside my heartbreak. Halfway up, we paused to catch our breath, and I turned to Lily. "Look at that view," I said, gesturing toward the sprawling landscape. "It's incredible, isn't it?" She nodded, awe lighting her eyes. "It's like we're on top of the world," she replied. And in that moment, I understood the profound impact this trip could have on her. It was a moment of realization for both of us. While our family had changed, we still had each other, and that bond was more important than any betrayal could ever diminish. As we reached the summit, I felt a sense of accomplishment. Together, we had conquered not just the mountain, but the emotional barriers we had been grappling with since Jacob's betrayal. Standing there, overlooking the vast expanse, I grasped Lily's hand and squeezed it gently. "No matter what happens, we're in this together," I promised her. Her eyes met mine, and in that shared look, we both knew that we would find our way forward. The rest of the weekend was filled with laughter, storytelling, and a sense of camaraderie that I had missed. We roasted marshmallows over the fire, and Lily shared her dreams, her hopes, and even her fears. It was in these moments that I felt our relationship strengthen. She was no longer just my daughter, but a confidant, someone I could lean on as we navigated this new chapter of our lives. As we packed up to return home, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. While the road ahead would undoubtedly be fraught with challenges, I knew I had the strength to face them, bolstered by the love of my daughter and the unwavering support of Evelyn. Life had handed me an unfair hand, but I was no longer just a victim of circumstance. I was a warrior, ready to reclaim my narrative and build a future filled with hope, healing, and, most importantly, love.